Well, friends, continuing with the webinars on the topic of the research question, we will take up some more portions on from what we have already discussed. Dr. Deepthi, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes, you are audible, sir.
Good
morning.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we discussed some aspects of the research question. Now, basically, what we, just to a small recap, that we initially get an idea that we see something and we'll develop a research hypothesis. And then we define the objective, why we want to do that research. We frame a tentative research question, which may be just a broad outline. And then we create an appropriate study design. And by, we make that study design, we fine-tune it. And ultimately, we frame a final research question. Now, all these involves a certain sequence of steps. We start with curiosity, and we see something unusual, unexpected, or paradoxical, which may be by chance. We think of why did it happen. Sometimes we get an answer, sometimes we don't get an answer. Still, we place our curiosity on that single incidence, and we'll develop a case report. This could be some simple thing like unusual place of some particular tumor, like sometimes we get a tumor in the tongue, or a thyroid in the lingual tonsil is also there, or sometimes we get a thyroid tissue inside the ovary in the form of certain an unusual occurrence, and we create a case report. Repeatedly, try to see the pattern and try to find out, is it really exceptional? And we think of the causation, and we create a possible hypothesis that is this the cause of this? So in this process of research, we find an interesting observation, we find the pattern and create a tentative hypothesis. And to really convert this hypothesis into a research study, we find out the problem, we make a hypothesis, and then we do certain experiments, which could be in the form of certain interventions, some drugs which we give, or some parameters which we remove from the situation, and then we observe. We see whether the confirmation of our hypothesis, is it really there? Is it occurring? Is it not occurring? And then we convert, thus we, based on our findings, we convert that problem, that observation into a research study. This may be from a very small thing, something happening at a molecular level, to a global level, or at a population level, or it can be at any level. Here I'll try to explain things with the help of a movie which I have myself made. Now, when this universe started, it was all the Higgs field, and there was a primitive matter, and that primitive matter, when the Big Bang took place, along the lines of E is equal to mc square, it formed the original matter. And this original matter, gradually evolution took place, and this original matter developed into early life, the from E is equal to mc square, followed by certain euglena or blue-green algae, and atoms. Before that, atoms were created, and these atoms led to certain formation of genes. These guanine, cytosine, adenine, I mean, they are all chemicals. And these chemicals, they came together and they formed the original unicellular organisms like amoeba, like algae, and gradually these unicellular organs, they developed into multicellular organisms, and along the path of evolution, there was the formation of the amphibians, the society, I mean, the amphibians came to the land and then gradually developed into apes, followed by man. And along with all its problems, and this phenomena continues into the solar system and even in the universe. Now, this was the observable universe. Now, let us see. I mean, what we saw was the microcosm at the level of unicellular organisms, at the level of DNA, and there is a macrocosm. Now, a single gene at the level of the microcosm, it undergoes mutation and it forms a tumor, and this tumor develops into spreads to metastasizes to all of the body, and it causes problems. Now, at the macrocosmic level, a single human being like Osama bin Laden or a Hitler starts thinking differently or behaving in a different manner and then metastasizes from Afghanistan to New York. So there is a definite correlation between the macrocosmic level and the microcosmic level, and it forms I have used this image. You see, this is where there is a problem at the microscopic level, and I have taken example of Osama bin Laden. So what is our research question? The research question is simply the study of one single area, which may be at the microscopic level or the macrocosmic level, and what we just have to correlate, find out the steps involved and just make that research question. So you all have I'll be giving you rather I have already given you in the Google Classroom the research question and the 28 steps. You all have to think of some research question as an assignment, and along this course you will work on that research question, finding the review of literature, etc. A tall person. So basically we have to focus on a small area, a single gene, a single point in this system, and see the interrelationships at microcosmic and macrocosmic levels. Now, when we look at this, is the idea worth pursuing? What is the problem? We prioritize. Why is it important? Now, as we saw in the movie, now a single idea, a single person, a single gene can have an impact locally, nationally, globally. And as these ideas they develop, as this is being understood, so much evolution is taking place that mankind has now reached a certain situation that in the coming 5 to 10 years, exponential growth is expected. And the problems of overabundance or of abundance are going to come. So this is the time when all these phenomena needs to be understood and our energies to be directed towards solving such problems, and research must be directed against certain problems which lead to improvement in the social structure of mankind, and from microcosmic as well as the macrocosmic levels. Now, after that, the rationale of the problem. Is the idea worth pursuing? Are there any benefits to the society? Dr. Anuradha, you want to say something? Hello?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
You have raised your hands now. Okay, fine. So, when we plan a research study, we will just say whether computer games make children smarter. Is it important? Can it be solved? Are there any benefits to society? We look for the literature on this. Any topic, any idea we create, we look for, we search the literature, we use the PubMed, we use the Mendeley, ReadQ, whatever, and try to find out, is the question fully answered? Have previous attempts failed? Why? Look for it. If answered, is this being used in clinical practice? If not, why not? What were the limitations of previous studies? And quite often these days, now technology has made it possible to do previous studies in a much better and bigger manner. And we can do collaborative studies also these days very easily. Then convert the hypothesis into a research study. Start with a broad general question or hypothesis and then narrow down to a small specific problem and design a study to address the specific hypothesis. Computer games, what type, which one, how much time, go down to smaller and smaller points. Go down to the single gene or a single human being if at the social level. This is, narrow down as much as possible. Or if you are doing some sequence of steps, as I said last time, create a checklist and go down to a single point in the checklist. Then children, what age, gender, class and school, language, again go to as small variables as possible. Remember, research is basically systematic study of facts so as to come out with a solution. Whether the children, how will you measure whether they are smarter? Is it better IQ, maths, interview, viewing skills, problem solving skills, general knowledge, marks in exam? Create as many as measurable parameters and then create the structured holistic approach for research planning. That is, set up a causal model, establish a fact hypothesis matrix. There are certain facts and you create certain hypotheses and then there is a matrix. And then develop a variable indicator measurement matrix. What are the various variables? How will you measure them? What indicates progress? What indicates not accepting? How will you measure? What units will you use? Select a study design. We will deal with the various study designs separately. Define the sampling method. How will you collect samples? Whether it will be through interviews, video recording, some tests, some hematological tests, some histopathological tests, some psychological tests, some questionnaires. All this. And what should be the size of the sample? How big or how small? Which statistical methods we are going to use? Now, statistical methods are quite a big topic and we will be taking them separately. Sampling method and study design will also be taken separately, followed by certain ethical issues. Consider in every college or in every situation there are certain ethical issues. Go to the if there is an ethical committee, or if just not plain human common sense of how much is the ethical issue. Then set up an operational plan. How will you go about it? Also set up some resources, what resources you will need, what financial, human, time resources are needed. Plan all that in the operational plan. Now we'll just look at fact hypothesis matrix. Our hypothesis is that computer games make children smarter. Now computer games may improve the scholastic performance. Now our children quite often, especially in kindergarten, almost every child these days uses those tables, games for multiplication tables or finding the names of animals. Now just try to find out whether, for example, whether these children are better adjusted in society. Do they have better cognitive, social and emotional development? Just look at the published literature. Do they have their negative emotions channelized in harmless activities, or whether are they having greater control of the situations, conflicts? Look at the published literature. Now computer games, they provide more, this could be the hypothesis, they provide more cerebral stimuli. Now the fact for this is that computer games, they have vast range of images, sounds, animation, information. Our entire work, I mean these days what I see, even our medical students, a lot of simulation games for even medical, they are now available. Whether these games are any useful to medical students or not, and whether there are recreation, whether they are break from studies, whether I mean the younger generation is quite they like games. The hypothesis could be games help in concentration and important for preparing for board questions. Now, do the children really sit in one place with prolonged concentration? Any facts about that? And then try to find out, because of these multiple hypotheses, do computer games really improve the students' scholastic performance? What could be the research question? So look in the published literature and then narrow down as much as possible how you will measure it and how you will come to the conclusion whether your hypothesis is correct. So a good hypothesis must be based on facts. There should be some published studies, should not have been already proven. I mean, we cannot take some hypothesis which is already proven 30 years ago and then we go in for research on that to re-establish, to reinvent the wheel. It should be convincing and often fills gaps in the current knowledge and usually explains more than one situation. Now here, from the movie I just showed you that look at the gaps and look at the interrelationships, and usually you will find that these interrelationships, by filling up one gap, the multiple situations get explained. Here I remember Himangini is associated with me on MEU India group since 2007. At that time it was a very small, hardly about 100 people were there, but it was like one gene, one point of energy, and gradually by pushing things into it or pushing information into it, we connected multiple minds, and gradually we are developing into it's an energy flow regulator which is moving around in our system, thus increasing the towards our goal of the social evolution. Are there any other possibilities that explain the problems? Should we have alternative explanations for all possible results before we start the study? I mean, yes, look at the other literature. I mean, can the research problem be explained by other methods, other points of study? Look for them. Then comes the hypothesis generation. We can have an alternative hypothesis that 75% of patients with hypertension drink coffee, or there could be some controls who also drink coffee. So our conclusion that coffee drinking causes hypertension. Then look for other explanations. Could it be by chance? Coffee drinking may not be related. There could be other methods, other reasons like stress. There could be obesity. There could be cigarette smoking, etc., etc. Are we having an observer bias, or whether the coffee drinking itself may not be having any effect on hypertension, or reverse, hypertension causes coffee drinking, or hypertension and coffee drinking could be caused by some third factor? Is it there? Look for all these points. Then Dr. John Stuart Mill, in the 19th century, he made certain principles of inductive reasoning. That is, first is the method of difference. Whether the disease is present or absent, whether the risk factor is present or absent. Method of agreement, whether in a disease risk factor is present or a concomitant variation, whether by giving certain dose response that this effect increases or decreases, and the method of analogy. Two diseases could be occurring together and may have the same cause. So this is the system of logic, how we think about the various points. Then comes the Cox postulates, which most of us are already familiar. Dr. Koch was a German microbiologist. He found that microbes found in diseased tissue of animals and not in normal tissue or animal, they could be cultured from a diseased tissue. The organisms from culture could cause disease if introduced in animals or man. The organisms could be re-isolated from experimentally infected animal or man, and treatment or preventive measures could eliminate the disease. Now, here everybody saw them, but he organized them in a systematic manner. And then there are certain criteria of causation from weakest to strongest. If A is associated or correlated with B, the strength of association and correlation, how much is the strength of association of correlation? What is the odds ratio? Whether A precedes B, that is temporality, or are there any biological mechanisms that lead from A to B? Plausibility. Now, here again, a sequence of steps, a checklist of steps. I mean, it is the same thing. Whether a graded dose response exists between A and B. I mean, we increase the dose of a drug or a stimulus or a change, or whether certain intervention increases, does it lead to the causation? Presence of situation A always leads to situation B. That is longitudinal studies. Or removal of situation A always leads to B, the treatment effect. Next is the variable indicator measurement matrix. Now here we look at the various variables and we look at the indicators. How much is those variables? We ourselves design those indicators and then we measure. For example, in our research question, the type of game, what is the category of games, for child, for adult, the name of the game, the dose, that is the time that game is played, number of attempts, duration, and measurement over a certain hours or weeks, number of tries per weeks, or number of months. We measure all that. Then expertise, performance in the game, highest score every week. Does it result in concentration on studies? The duration of the study, efficiency of study. Does it improve the scholastic performance? Can the child sit for longer hours per day or read multiple chapters per day? The quality of studies, whether these games they increase the comprehension or recall or periodic test, and their scores in monthly tests, and ultimate benefit, exams, marks or scores or mark sheets of 12th board exam, etc., etc. We just need, there are certain variables. We create certain indicators around these variables and then measure the results and what comes out. So then review the objectives. Is it possible to answer all the initial questions? Really? Or do we need to make changes? Do we have the subjects the technology, the budget, and time to complete the study? This is a very, very important question. How many subjects or population or patients or uh, animals or do we need? What technology, what instruments, what uh, mm, I mean various machines if needed, or do we have them? How much money we need to spend? And usually it is better to keep some extra money for, there is in every study there are certain wastages, there are certain controls, there are certain points which could be uh, beyond our control, and the time we need to complete the study. Here also extra time should always be kept. Now, can the questions be broken down into smaller parts which can be answered separately? Here, again, as I said, go as small as possible. A single gene, a single situation, checklist, one part, one step leading to another, one intervention leading to another, one environment changing to another, one single intervention leading to a long-term change, etc., etc. Do we need to rephrase the initial question? The initial question you have created, rephrase it. We will just come to this rephrasing just now and develop a specific focused research question. Now, what are the components of an ideal research question? The word PICO is very important. PICO, that is, the research question must contain the population involved, or which we are using for making the research. That is it a normal? How many, which population? Well, is it the certain patients, hypertensive patients, diabetic patients, the number of normals, disease patients, how many patients, how many humans, how many animals, the population involved. Intervention. What intervention are we going to do? The therapy, the risk factor, the diagnostic test, and the preventive measures which we are, or the preventive measures which we are going to take during the study. The intervention should be a part of the research question. Then comparison or control, whether it is something is going to improve or get worse, whether there is a placebo involved, whether there is an active control involved. This should be a part of the research question. Then outcome, what outcome do we expect? Whether any clinical outcome are we expecting, any functional, any change in some parameter, some laboratory involvement, some economic parameter is involved, some increase or decrease in the economic situation as a result of an intervention, any laboratory changes. So this PICO is very important. So the ideally framed research question must have the population, the intervention, the control, and the outcome. For example, is low-dose dopamine infusion superior to noradrenaline in decreasing need for dialysis and in-hospital mortality in adults with septic shock? Does addition of aspirin to standard treatment decrease need for hospitalization in diabetic females with coronary artery disease? So now Here we look at these two questions. So we have a population adults with septic shock, the intervention low dose dopamine infusion, the control that is noradrenaline, and the outcome decreasing need for dialysis. Thus, here again, diabetic females with coronary artery disease. This is the population. The intervention is addition of aspirin. Control, standard treatment. Outcome, decreased need for hospitalization. Apply the PICO. Is the quantiferon test superior to tuberculin test in detecting presence of active tuberculosis in asymptomatic healthcare workers? So, population asymptomatic healthcare workers, quantiferon test and tuberculin test. This is the intervention. The tuberculin test is the comparison. Outcome, presence of active tuberculosis, detecting presence of active tuberculosis. Does salt fortified with folic acid and vitamin B12 decrease the serum homocysteine levels? So does the population is vegetarians with previous myocardial infarction. Intervention, salt fortified with folic acid and B12. And the control is unfortified salt. And the outcome is decreased serum homocysteine levels. So basically, the ideally researched framed research question must, for example, involve these PICO. So, in our original question, does playing with brain tickler 2010 daily for 2 years improve performance of female 10th grade students in 12th grade examinations when compared to students with unrestricted access to all computer games? So here the population is females with 10th grade students. Intervention is playing with brain tickler 2010 daily for 2 years. Control is the students with unrestricted access, and outcome is the improvement in performance of female, improved performance. So, in summary, conceptualize the problem, identify what is the problem, prioritize why is it this important, the rationale, can the problem be solved, and its importance, are there any benefits to society, define a testable hypothesis, frame a broad research question, then break it into smaller and smaller problems, hypothesis or study, convert the study into parts, and refine the research question into specific focused interventions, and can find out whether it can be answered with available resources, time, and budget and facilities available to us, and then frame the research question accordingly. So it is worthwhile to put a lot of thought and effort before starting even a simple study. This is very, very important. Before starting any research, as they say in management, if you spend 50% time in planning anything, then your outcome will always be good. It is better to spend a lot of time in planning the research question, and then before starting any study. I am grateful to Dr. Dilip Karnad, who helped me in creating this presentation. Now this is open to questions. Any questions? Please raise your hands. Or any comments or anything? Yes, Dr. Shashank.
Hello.
Yes.
Sir, actually the thing is that I have missed the starting of 10 minutes. I have missed the starting 10 minutes. Can you just go through the slides, like 10 slides in just, can you brush up the starting 5 to 10 slides, please?
I'll be sending the recording.
Okay, sir. Fine.
Yes.
And it was useful, sir. It was very useful. That Pico format is very useful to me. Hello, sir.
Yes.
Yes, Paramveer, can you?
Yes, sir. Hello, sir.
Yes,
Hello.
tell me. Yes.
Yes, sir. The Pico, can we use Pico in scopic review or systematic review studies?
I mean,
Pico
Pico
model?
can be used anywhere. However, quite often we sometimes all studies don't fit into the Pico format.
Okay.
So minor variations are quite often they have to be done,
Thank you.
because sometimes the population or the intervention, it doesn't fit.
Mm-hmm.
For example, we are doing just the incidence studies in which there is no intervention.
And gotcha.
So that is there. Now the key point is that we have anything we have to what is research? Basically, research is systematic study of anything and then doing something and collecting some data around it, and then coming up with a hypothesis and seeing whether that hypothesis stands or not, creating some aims and objectives. So anybody else? Infection control आप लोग नहीं? मैं अभी ओके, हाँ ओके. Are there any dedicated apps or AI sites for medical research? Of course there are, and there are a lot of them, and they are an icing on the cake. So this course is research methodology with AI. So we will be doing some research methodology, and we will be also be doing some AI also. That part, I mean, we are having next week the Deputy Director of National Informatics Center, New Delhi, Mr. Sukhdev. He will be presenting a talk, and also Harshal will be presenting on these apps, because these apps are we have one of them which has come up is Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, and also a number of Add-ons have come for Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, even PowerPoint, and Google Slides, Google Docs, Google Sheets. They all have now a built-in AI component. Then there is the next one more lecture we will be holding on only on literature search, and in that we will be telling you all these. Just to begin with, you can start with the PubMed and Google's Scholar, and there is Microsoft Copilot. I hope you have all created a on ChatGPT. Have you created an account?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So what did you use it for?
I find some introduction on auscultation.
Okay.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
If can I ask you, from your experience, like when you read a question for research, what
Yes.
are the key, what are the eye-catching points should be in a question, and the points should be avoided in a question, research question, while creating a research question?
Can you repeat?
So what are the points should be put points or address in a question, or is any their points should be avoided while creating a research question, like key points, like it should include in a research question, something that should be avoided?
The more broader you move,
Yes.
the more difficult and unsolvable the research question becomes.
Okay.
The more narrower on a narrower problem you move, the research question becomes doable and also more collecting data and coming out with a solution, coming out with a hypothesis, that is becomes more possible.
Thank you.
I hope you, supposing we take up about for instance, we are taking up a histopathology slide. I'm from pathology.
Yes, yes,
histopathology
definitely.
slide is there.
Yes.
So instead of taking up the entire method of preparation of slide, there can be one study on the amount of time which is taken for one stain, and that's all.
Okay,
Or
gotcha.
these days, I remember one paper only on whether to use cover slip using the egg albumin or a paper clip. They just combined, check this much. The more narrower a research question is, the better it is.
Perfect.
So have you, so we will just this is the one of the hot properties these days, the ChatGPT, and we will just ask it a question.
Hello.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, white cat is there. Thank you.
Okay. I'll just enumerate the softwares for literature search using artificial intelligence. Let's see what it says. So it has shown some of them. Even for me, some of them are relatively new.
PubMed.
So we just go there and just check them one by one. Okay, Regina Roy is saying, yes, okay. So this is the, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
So now here you see my email address is there. This is because I have created an account. It is very important that all of you make an account on PubMed. It's a free account. You can store and there are a lot of benefits of this. So some of the we'll just so skin infections in corona. So what happens? We'll search. So this is a relatively filters applied last 1 year because I had already kept some filters. The number of studies in this less, so 13 is okay. So we'll just put in skin infections. So there are 7,618 results. And you can see that this is even leishmaniasis is coming. And so what we do, in which we use a square bracket, and the square bracket should be touching. And also we put a title. And then we close it. So only 31 results instead of 7,000. And each paper has skin infection in the title. And if I want only those which are giving free full text, so quite often the lot of articles are paid. Supposing we want only those, somebody is doing a research So quite often the mistake we commit is we don't put in the title in a square bracket. We use a normal bracket, and sometimes we place some space here. Then this is not applicable. And we want some article in which there is a clinical trial. None. Or we want an article in this was 1 year, we wanted for last 5 years. If we make it last 5 years, then there are 155 results. So we want we put India and then put location. And then put a square bracket again. So only those studies which have been done in India, they will be displayed. Or there is another one very good. We want skin infection. And we want the articles by Mr. Sundar. And then we say put the square bracket and then put author. So the articles, there was only one person by the name of Sundar who has written an article on skin infection. So this is there. Or we want to create an alert. So what happens now? We want all the articles which have skin infection in title, and we want that they should come in my email on a monthly basis. We can even do it, the frequency we can reduce to weekly or a daily basis. And this is my email address, which is there because I have created an account. And if I we can make 5 items or 10 items or 100 items. So continuously all the articles which are coming, it will automatically keep on coming to your email address. This I find very useful tip. So supposing we take this article, no, not this one. We go back and we take an article before 2021, because ChatGPT works only on till 2021. This is the limitation currently. So So we'll just take some article which is before 2021.
You can go into advanced. You can go in advanced and filter dates.
Yes. So we go to this article and we just choose it, and then we say copy, and then we go to ChatGPT and we paste it. Make and ask it make a summary of the article, and let's see what happens. Okay, here it is not telling me. So another way is, supposing I have an article. Just a moment. So there. Yes. I think I have number of. Just a moment. Let me find an article. So I have found an article, and the article is fundamentals of in medical education research, and I download it. And then what I do, I'll take the article and I select the text. And then ask ChatGPT to make a summary. Make a summary of the article मैंने क्लास दे रहा हूँ. So very quickly, it has made a summary of the portion which we had selected and gives it in an easy language. This is one way which we can use ChatGPT. In the coming days, we will be coming up with many more applications gradually. So, one more site I would like you all to visit is scholar.google.com. Here also you will get very good articles, and also the best part here is I find the alerts provided by Google Scholar the best. So whenever you start any research, you can just put a create alert, and any topic, I say artificial intelligence in medical education. I find this better than create alert. So alert created, and since I have done it on a daily basis every day, all the new articles which appear on the internet, they will start coming to me in my email address. So I think that is enough for the day. Every Saturday at 8 p.m. so far, we might increase this to twice a week, but at present it is every Saturday at 8 p.m. Ultimately, we will be increasing it to twice a week. Last time also we did it on Saturday 8 p.m. This time also Saturday 8 p.m. So anything else?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good night. And please keep the WhatsApp group